Hi. Okay, so first question. What are the key arguments made about the impact of assholes in the workplace? So I want to start off with the example of the students who came to the college to do the work assignment they were given or whatever assignment they were given. They didn't know where they were and they accidentally walked into the classroom, the wrong classroom. And instead of like any normal person, they were instead of they expected directions. Sorry, like any normal person, they expected directions from the professor, but in that case, the professor who was there was an asshole, and instead of giving them directions, was very rude towards them and condescending and telling them, "How dare you interrupt my time? How could you not follow basic rudimentary instructions?" And even after they had left that interaction and got to where they needed to be, the impact from that situation, from that confrontation, from that was lasting on them, and it was rubbing off on their work and them themselves, because they performed poorly on their work, and they acted more coldly towards somebody who dropped their books. They were less willing to help than that group of students who got there, was able to get there without complications. Um, um, Second example I had was Steve Jobs. We all know Steve Jobs. He's the one who made the same phone that I use, and maybe some students in this class have a MacBook or something, and he's the one who came up with the business idea to even make all that possible. Somebody even as brilliant as him was a rude employee and an even worse boss, because he was an asshole. He mistreated others. He was rude towards them. He was condescending, and in my point of view, acted just high and mighty towards everybody. And not to mention, he was really weird, and as they say from the person at her first-hand experience, that he would ask really strange and personal questions towards his coworkers, and all this would have a lasting impact on his workplace, because people just, I would assume, did not want to work with him and would perform poorly because of how they felt towards him and how they felt when they were around him. And this eventually got him ran out of his own company. So a second question: how does Adam Grant challenge the notion that successful leaders need to exhibit abrasive or negative behavior? So he challenges the idea that leaders have to be aggressive or abrasive, and says that more times than none, being aggressive or abrasive is actually way less productive. It can help in the short term, sure, because your employees feel pressured to finish the work faster, but in the long run, it doesn't help one bit. And of course, there's multiple studies on this, but it's just very plain and obvious. If you're rude to somebody, sure, they'll get it done just so they don't have to deal with you. But in the long run, they'll think of you as somebody they want to avoid. They'll think of you as somebody they don't want to go to. They'll become less creative if they get a creative idea. If they get a different way to do something, they won't do it. They won't want to do it because they don't want to have to deal with you being an asshole. And that's just one person. Imagine a whole team. Imagine a whole company. Just because you wanted to be rude, just because you guys, the leader, wanted to be an asshole. So there is no reason to be abrasive or aggressive at all. The third question: what are some of the challenges mentioned in creating and sustaining a respectful and workplace culture? So the first challenge that became apparent to me was in the very first step of any company, the hiring process, was finding the right employee to match with your already company. So from the very get-go, you have to employers will ask the other employer, how is this person work with others? And more times than none, the employer will answer, oh yeah, they work great, they work great with others, there's no problems. And if they answer confidently, many employers think, okay, well then this person's really good. But if the other employer answers like, oh, they work well with some, not really with others, they can work well with not others and not, more times than none, that usually means, oh, that person's an asshole, or they're rude towards others for no good reason, or they're an asshole. The second challenge was giving employees a voice. In the second example, the lady Cindy, sorry, I have to remember her name. The lady Cindy is a senior associate for a company, and she has junior associates working under her. So I'm guessing maybe at the end of the year or just a monthly thing, they have a survey. And as she's opening these surveys, she sees that one of them is about, oh, would you want to work with your senior supervisor again? Or would you want to work with this employee again? And she sees that one of them says they would not want to work with her again. And it's anonymous, so she doesn't know who. But simply because somebody could voice their opinion and feedback made her reflect on who she was and how she was being an asshole, because as she said, she was being selfish for her own desires and kind of ignored how her employees felt. And because of that, her employees felt that way towards her. But because they could voice their opinions and how they felt, they could then she could then change her ways and not be such an asshole towards them anymore. The fourth question: what role do you? Oh wait, no, what strategies does the podcast suggest for preventing toxic behavior in the workplace? So the person who came on, whose name was Sheila Hen, gives her 3 tips. Her first tip for confronting people in the workplace who you can't get rid of, who are assholes, and instead have to deal with them. Her first tip is to, God dang, it was into my tongue. Her first tip is to, Her first tip is to simply ask them what's going wrong. And to her, she said to assume that you don't know everything. That maybe that person was being an asshole, maybe because they were stressed, because they had it was a hard assignment that they always wanted to get done, and to not assume that you know everything, to not assume that person's an asshole. So she says to simply ask the person, you surprised me, what was going on, what happened, so that doesn't happen again, and so that we can avoid it and it won't happen in the future. Her second tip is not so much about being passive, but more aggressive towards the person. Not aggressive, but confronting the person. If a person's rude to you, you want to confront them. That's her second tip, to confront them. Maybe not. Maybe in the moment, an hour later, a day later, just whenever the wound is fresh, to confront them and tell them, do you really feel the need to be an asshole? Do you really think this is the best way not the best way? That's the next question. Is it really necessary to act this way towards others? Is it really the best way to go about this? And the third tip she gives is to approach the person and ask them, is this really the best way you can go about dealing with this? If they're being an asshole, approach them and ask them, is that really the best way you can do this? Now, to me, the way she answered seems a little condescending. It's probably because me as a person, how I see it. But she says, you can be a little humorous with it and approach the person and kind of be like, oh, I thought you were smarter than this, I thought you were smarter than this. Like, I assume not. I guess I was wrong. To me, that would just make me more mad. I would prefer somebody just comes up to me and tell me you're being an asshole. Here's how you can do it better. Try this way. But if somebody told me like, oh, I thought you were smarter than this, I would just think they're calling me stupid. I would just get madder. But her whole point is to basically approach them and try to give them another way to go about the issue. Okay, the one, two, three, four. The fifth question: what role do you think you play in maintaining a respectful and supportive work culture? Uh, in my work, I can't really say they're a bunch of assholes, except for the customers who can sometimes be assholes. But I guess my role in maintaining a good workplace is if there's ever a customer who's an asshole, um, or one of my coworkers is being an asshole towards another employee, which doesn't happen, but should it happen, I would, if a customer is being an asshole towards me, I see myself as the person who to stay calm and collected and try to sort out the situation without trying to escalate it, and not to maintain a good, not to maintain a good work environment, but to maintain a good shopping environment, a good environment for everybody to be in. So I guess you could say work environment. So I see myself as kind of the person to just deal with the situation, see how I can de-escalate it, see how I can help, and if there's any other way I can deal with it. So for the sixth question, am I ever the asshole at work? I don't think so. Maybe in the past, my first job, I might have been, but that was really far back. But as of now, I don't think I'm the asshole. I don't think others consider me an asshole. I see myself, and I assume others see me as kind of go with the flow, quiet, just do my work, and people do irritate me and annoy me. Customers do, coworkers do, and not because they're being rude, but simply because something they want done this way, or something they want it done that way, and I just I don't go berserk. So I don't see myself as an asshole. I think I can be very calm and collected, and I don't have to resort to being an asshole. But yeah, thank you.